This is Nancy's final project, and we want to have her available for her.
Yes, I'm a bit nervous today, but I hope everything will go fine. So welcome to this virtual training. This is the third module of 7, especially designed for new family network volunteers. So if you are experienced family network volunteer, I think all of you are, this training would serve as an excellent refresher. The purpose of this module is to identify potential crises, introduce the concept of crisis, reaction, and discuss ways the MFRC and the Family Network Program may be able to help families in need. After introduction of your presenters, we will go over a few ground rules that set the stage for a positive virtual experience and get to know you better with an ice-breaking activity. I think we already did the ground rules, but for the ice-breaking is coming. Next, we will look at the type of crisis military and family members may encounter, common crisis reactions, 8 steps for responding to individuals and crises, and existing network support system for family network volunteers. And to participate fully today in the training, you may have your family network volunteer handbook, but will not use it during the presentation. And at the end, you will be asked to take a short survey to let us know how we did and how you found using this virtual platform. So let's get started with the introduction. So I'm the presenter for this presentation. I'm the Community Development Coordinator, Nancy Maupu, and I'm working at the MFRC for a year now. I'm also a military wife for more than 28 years. Yeah, time goes fast. I have been working with people in potential crisis for a long time, and even after all that time, it's always stressful to make sure that we are doing the best to answer the needs of the families. So I'd like to introduce my partner and the producer of this session. It's over to you, Margaret.
Well, when I look at your picture, Nancy, I can't believe you've been married 28 years. You look so young. Oh, my goodness. So my name is Margaret McKenzie, and I am the Virtual Program Coordinator for the Military Family Resource Center, Prince Edward Island, from my home office in Winnipeg, soon to be my home office in Germany, as I am also a military spouse of 25 years. And I have designed and delivered a training program to MFRC staff across the country, to about 53 staff to date in the last 2 years, on how to bring a live presentation to an interactive virtual classroom. So Nancy is one of our students, and I'm very excited to be working with her, and I'm really, really pleased to be meeting the volunteers that are working in Kingston, and to learn more about this program, because this is the first time I've heard about this volunteer program. So thanks so much, and without further ado, we'll head over back to you, Nancy.
Thank you, Margaret. So now that we can meet you participants, so could you give me your name and tell me if you are new at the Family Network Program? Maybe we can start with Sarah.
I don't know, am I considered new? I'm the 1 ESU family rep.
You're the which family rep, sorry?
Engineer Support Unit, ESU.
Okay.
Thank you. And Megan?
I've been a part of the Family Network Rep program for a little while now, but I still probably am considered new. But I am the family rep for the recruiting center here in Kingston.
Thank you. And Angela?
Hi, I'm the family rep for shared services here in Kingston. I also volunteer at the KMFRC. Well, I'm doing a work placement, sort of. It's complicated.
And we do appreciate your help, Angela. Thank you. So now we're trying the icebreaker. It's called Younger Self. It's a nice activity to get to know one another better. To start, bring your eyes to the top left-hand side of the screen, where you will find your pointer tool. I don't know if you see it.
Big, thick blue arrow.
Right.
Click on the big, thick arrow called a pointer, and use your pointer to claim a row on the board.
There we go, Angela. Great. Sarah, do you have your pointer there?
Again.
And Sarah, very good.
Good. So imagine you were able to go back in time to leave a note to yourself in your 20s. What would you say in only 2 words? So to do that, you use your text tool just beside the pointer tool at the top left-hand side of the screen. And I will leave you a minute to think about it and write it down. So remember that some colors are hard to see. So if you want to change the colors of your font, click on the drop-down menu of the colored box to find a new shade. And when you're done, click away on the page so we can see your answer. Did everybody found it's a T? Mm-hmm. Just close to, just beside your arrow. Click on this and go back where you put your arrow and try to put your 2 words. And click away when you're done.
You could write a note to your younger self. What would you say in only 2 words? You know what? I got it. Okay.
Thank you, Megan. Angela got it too. Sarah, is it working for you?
It's working. I just don't know what to put. Really not in 2 words.
Okay, use 3.
I was torn between laugh more and smarten up, so, you know.
So when you're done, don't forget to click away so we can
Which
see
means
the
clicking
answer.
somewhere else on the screen. For some reason, you have to do that. It's a little glitch of the system. Be strong. Oh, so important, Angela.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're waiting for you, Sarah.
I can't think of anything.
Okay, do you want us maybe when we go over the other one, you might have some ideas? Okay, if we start with Angela, be strong. What you wanted to express by that?
I went through some rough times in my young adulthood. And
so thinking that it,
yeah, and sometimes I wasn't strong, but I came through, and it made me strong.
Thank you. Megan?
Well, like Angela, I had quite a few tough experiences in my younger years, and I cared too much about things that I didn't need to care. So I cried too much over things that didn't really matter, and I should have just enjoyed things a little bit more, put more focus on the things that made me laugh.
Yeah, they're there very often. We don't see them.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And Margaret?
So no judgment. Very similar to Megan. I just couldn't put it into words. I was thinking about that just yesterday when my daughter sometimes is very hard on herself, and she'll judge herself, and she'll be afraid of what other people think. And I'm just thinking, you know, don't let that stop you. Just be you and celebrate who you are. Those that know you will get you. Those that don't know you, well, that's their issue.
Mm-hmm. So true. And Sarah, so you find 2 words. Can you talk to us about it?
I like going around and just seeing like the different areas we've been in, but I didn't do it a lot when we were first posted to like Petawawa and stuff, so just see more of the areas that we're posted into.
Mm-hmm. Try, life adventures. Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing with us. I think it shows that we all went through difficult time one time in our life, and hopefully we learn about it and cope. But so we can identify when some families are in a crisis, whether it's all about. So if we go to the next slide,
I love this
Megan,
picture.
yeah, Megan, can you read the definition about a crisis?
Crisis is a broad term for a situation that is urgent but not an emergency.
So Margaret asked me a good question. A crisis is not an emergency. Could somebody tell me what they see as a difference between a crisis and an emergency? You can raise your hand if you have an answer. Yes, Margaret?
So I have a benefit because you explained it to me before the session today, but I really couldn't figure out I thought crisis was an emergency, but the emergency happens and the crisis lasts longer than the emergency. So I think that's the biggest difference. The emergency is a point in time, and then the crisis is all the stuff that happens afterwards. Is that right?
And you can have more than an emergency, more than one emergency in a crisis too. That we will see that further. So so a crisis refers to any situation. So really, it's a situation in which an individual feels unable to cope or use effective problem-solving skills. So now people are confronted with many crises in their lives. You are going to identify the type of crisis a military family might experience in those three areas: the military unit, personal family, and man-made or natural disaster. So you will write down some crises for each of those types. To start, again, go get your arrow. So it's on the top left-hand side of the screen, and the pointer tool, and click on the big thick arrow called a pointer, and use your pointer to claim a row on the left side of the board.
And the reason we use the pointer to claim the row is so that we're not ending up writing over each other, because when you use the text tool, if you don't claim a spot, you're going to write over one another.
And that happened with me.
Yeah, it does.
Megan, Angela.
Sarah.
Do you want us to pick different ones?
Take your pointer.
On the left side, you point on just one, because you will write down some information in the military, the personal, and the disaster. So just
choose a row
on the left. You have to. Yes,
there we go.
Perfect. So using your text tool now, just beside the pointer tool, you will write a crisis for each of the area. So for example, a flood will fall under the category of disaster. And don't forget to click away when you're done.
And the other thing too is, Angela and Megan, when you get to personal family, if you're writing in blue, it may be hard to read, so you may want to change the color by clicking on the drop-down menu of the blue box and choosing a different color for those two.
So if you want to put some in the personal and disaster too, if you have ideas. If not, we'll take whatever is there.
Oh. Can you get it to let me change the color?
So maybe another 30 seconds. Very good answer there. Actually, and actual too.
Oh, I remember the ice storm, Angela. That was a kadoozy.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I'm using technical language there, sorry.
absolutely, childcare could be a personal family crisis when you don't have anything. And
well, I just know it's one that we're going through right now, and I classify it as a crisis.
yes, yes, exactly.
Especially when you move.
That's what we're going through now, and you move different provinces where childcare is not affordable, but you've lost your job and things like that.
Yes, yes.
Getting a new job is impossible without childcare.
Yeah, you never know which one will go first. Are you taking a childcare and trying to find a job, and
well,
if it's working? And
exactly. In my field here in Ontario too, they always start you out part-time, despite having 13 years experience. So I can't afford childcare on part-time.
As a military spouse, it was so frustrating to always start off with 2 weeks vacation and at the bottom of the totem pole. But you know, Met Spouse is a program. I don't know if you know about that. Have you heard about Met Spouse, Megan?
I don't think so.
Because that's a phenomenal program that actually connects with military spouses to have portable jobs. And so they have 24 companies that hire military spouses because of their expertise to have portable jobs.
Oh, that's great. I hadn't heard of that.
So that's Met Spouse. And are you part of the military, Canadian Military Spouse Facebook group?
Yep.
Okay. So if you look up Katie, I always want to say Katie Couric, but that's not her name. What's her name? Let me just.
And I think we put it on the Facebook page not too long ago, so you could go back on our Facebook page and try to find the
I'm sure
ad.
it's there. They post things all the time for things like that. I just haven't.
So how you get to it? How you get to it, Megan, is you go into the MFRC and speak with the employment coordinator.
Okay.
And they'll set you up with the Met Spouse program, where they will help you with your resume and then connect you with one of these 24 companies.
Oh wow, that's great.
And then you have to go for interviews, but with your skills, it won't be a problem.
Yeah, well, and I had an interview yesterday. It was the same. Like I've received job offers, but I told them yesterday a part-time job offer is just not going to fly.
So thank you again. That's good answers, and they're all right. So if we could maybe go to the next slide, and we'll see more of the type of crisis too that we can have. So yeah, a military unit, whatever the crisis is, military, personal, or disaster related. So if we can click and have all of them. The MFRC and Family Network volunteers are often the first line of support for military families. So to provide the support, you need to understand what constitutes a crisis, be prepared to respond to the emergency situation, and feel confident in your abilities to support others. You must also understand the MFRC's roles in crisis management and your specific role as a family network volunteer. Is there any of them that you don't see as a crisis in there? I don't think so. We don't. And again, Megan, you said it so well. For some people, it could be something that is not stressful, that they went through before, with personal or really stressful, but they are in control. And for some reason, other people will have really tough time to go over some of those difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's a really great point, Nancy, excuse me, that crisis is different. So what one person may find crisis, the other person may not. So that's a really interesting component right there.
Yeah, it's that make it at one point the most difficult part as a family network is make sure that you make the person feel that she's okay to feel for her that it's a crisis, even if for you it seems to be easy to go through it. So if we could go to the next slide.
Sure. Megan, I was wondering if you can mute your microphone. I'm getting a bit of background from you.
I have a music, yeah.
It's lovely. Thank you.
That's my daughter's swing.
Love it. It's lovely.
If we have a Z icon, if I see one, I might it's because people fell asleep during the presentation. So we have an interesting definition of, Chinese have an interesting definition of crisis. It contains a symbol for danger and opportunity. What does that mean for you? Why do you think they have both those symbols in the definition of crisis?
Raise your hand if you can share that.
Yes, Angela.
Because you could react in different ways. You could use it as an opportunity to improve things.
It pushed you to
Yeah.
react, yes.
Right, yeah.
Good, thank you. Yes, so most military family lives live far from their extended family, and when they experience crisis or danger, there's an immediate opportunity for the MFRC family network to really support to rely and support for those in need. So it's also an opportunity for family network volunteers to use the leadership and communication skills discussed during for the one who had the training, the module 1 and 2, you had the information about empower and encourage others. So just to go back to your previous training. So the primary purpose of the MFRC is to provide education about crisis prevention and offer a short-term solution, focused intervention when necessary. So the MFRC is not designed to be a crisis intervention center. Additionally, your role as a family network volunteer is not to try to solve people's problems. Rather, your role is to identify when an individual or family is in a crisis and follow the MFRC crisis support protocol to provide appropriate resource and referral. And that's really important, and we'll see the difference during the presentation. So we don't usually introduce breakout rooms to participants until they have had the opportunity to be comfortable with the virtual programming, but I believe in you, and I know that you're an exceptional group, so I'm sure you can do it. Breakout room is a very cool and are definitely an advanced virtual tool. So the ground rule to the break room rule are, first you need to unmute all. So for Megan, it will be important to unmute you will go back to the music.
The music's off now. She's asleep.
And you need to also just click yes to the 2 pop-up questions that you will see on your screen, audio and computer. If you have any questions, just click a raise your hand icon, so we'll come and answer your question. The whiteboard, so be patient for the whiteboard to appear because it'll take a time to switch to the whiteboard, and you will have to, we'll help you to select a scribe person to write down the answer and a spokesperson for your group at the beginning of the discussion after all. You will have 5 minutes to discuss about the
scenario.
The scenario, thank you. And you after that 5 minutes, you'll automatic return. So you don't have to do anything. You'll go back to this slide. And we'll share discussion and on return to the main classroom. Do you have any questions?
So the beauty of the breakout room brainstorm is that it's just like going to a small room in a regular classroom. And you're going to have a flip chart that you're going to write on. And here's going to be your scenario.
So maybe, Megan, could you read the scenario, please?
A member approaches you after a family network meeting. She begins to cry as she tells you that last week she found out she has cancer. Her husband is deployed and she cannot reach him. She wants to go home where she can get support from her family, but she does not have the financial means to get home where she can get support from her family. Oh, hold on, sorry. But she does not have the financial means to get there. Her aunt and grandmother both died from cancer at a young age, and she believes that she will also die from the disease. She does not know what to do. She has not slept in days, and she is too mentally and physically exhausted to care for their young kids.
Oof. So what the question will be, say how to best respond to the crisis scenario, how you will provide support, and how you will assess their need, and what type of resources you might recommend. So are you ready to go to the break? Do you need to see again the rules? So yes, we're back to the rules. So everybody is on mute, and don't forget to just click yes to the 2 pop-up questions.
All right, we'll see you in the breakout room.
Okay.
Welcome back. So Nancy, I'm going to send you a request to share what you've written as a group.
Yeah.
And you just click OK, and there we go.
Drives me crazy that I spelled counselor wrong. I'm sorry. There's only one L.
No, there's never any sorry in spelling. It's just like writing on a blackboard. Spelling errors are okay on a blackboard. So what did you think of the breakout room opportunity in the virtual classroom?
Oh, yes, it's something different, eh?
Yeah, how did you find that went? Angela, what were your thoughts on the breakout room?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think we're all still trying to get used to this.
Right.
But,
so isn't it great that we can also bring back your information, and then we can have a share about each different group, so we could have different scenarios in different groups presenting.
right.
So yeah, this tool is really good when you have a bigger group and you want them to talk in, and you have 15 or 20 people and you want maybe 4 or 5 of them talking about one question and come back and be able to share.
Right.
Excellent. So go ahead, Nancy, with what was said there. Can you explain it?
Yeah, so I think you did it really good, and I can see that it's not your first time that you're going through that, because I got a really good answers, and I think that the rest of the presentation we maybe have more of a step-by-step, so you might want to say, oh yes, we forgot this step first, and yes, because I saw a lot that was going to the last question first, what type of resources you might recommend right away, but this stuff to do before that to make sure that we don't miss anything, and I think that will help you to go through all those steps with the presentation. So thank you for sharing. So when a traumatic event occurs, people have an initial reaction to the situation. People will react in different ways, even in a shared situation. However, the most common reaction include emotional changes in psychological health, physical well-being, and behavioral, oh, this word is really difficult for me in English, behavioral changes.
It's hard for me too.
For now, we will provide a high-level overview of these reactions and discuss some common coping strategies. Think about the family presented in your scenario. See if you can identify the type of reaction they experiment, and later we will discuss how to deal with these reactions. So if we go to the next one, the emotional reaction. So some people experience intense emotional reactions such as anxiety, fear, anger, or guilt. Others may underreact to situations they may experience, shock and protect themselves through denial and disbelief. Using the pointer tool at the top left hand side of the screen, point the emotion you detect to be the strongest in the previous scenario. So go get your, yeah, I think everybody agree, and uncertainty, yes, absolutely. So why, Margaret, you think it's the strongest?
Well, I think if you have cancer in your body and your family has died from cancer, that's a huge uncertainty. Of course, it's fear, but it's also not knowing what's going to happen next. That would get me that would be the strongest emotional for me.
Yeah, and I think you stated at one point they're really interconnected. Uncertainty brings fears, and very often it's so mixed that you don't know which one is the most important at that time. Absolutely. Thank you for that. So if you continue on the next one, some common mental reaction now include memory problem, disorientation and confusion, difficulty concentrating, inability to make decisions, flashback about the event, nightmare, and horribilizing the event by imagining things to be worse than they are. Going further with the family, it will be easier to pinpoint those mental reactions. In a few sentences, we will not be able to get all those reactions, but with going with some question, you might be able to identify if they have mental reactions also. So the next one with the physical reaction. So some common physical reaction may range from headaches and weight problems to speech difficulties, sleepiness, and immune system disorders. So some may experience visual disturbances, heightened sensory perception, and tremors. Any questions so far? No. So the behavioral reaction now. It may include frequent crying, angry outbursts, hypervigilance, neglecting responsibilities, increased substance use, becoming accident-prone, and social isolation.
This sounds like a move. This sounds like the reactions I have every time I have to move.
So yeah, sometimes when we go to that training, you look at yourself and say, "Oh my God, I'm stressed.
I'm in crisis.
I'm in crisis right now."
Oh my goodness.
We do all that. I think when we
12
do that
moves
training.
in 25 years. Yeah, and this is crisis mode every 2 years. Love it.
It's important to remember that different people will have different reactions to similar events. Some may even experience a combination of emotional, physical, mental, and behavioral reactions. Regardless of how one reacts, it's important to help network members understand the reality of the situation. So as a first line of support, you should assure them that the crisis is a temporary and the reaction is normal. So are we at the slide 17? No, we can change maybe to...
So crisis is temporary.
Yes, exactly. We need to say to ourselves that so often, I think. You can also help the renewal process along by encouraging them to engage in coping skills that have worked for them in the past and recommending new strategies. Some common coping strategies include social support. Can you maybe give me some idea of what would be social support? Do you have any idea? If you can raise your hand. Yes, Angela?
Networking with friends or a support group.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one would be relaxation techniques. Do you have any to suggest, Megan?
Absolutely.
Oh, Angela, yes, go.
Meditation.
Yeah.
So are you talking mindfulness, or what do you mean by meditation?
Well, my husband and I do guided meditations, and it just relaxes you. It tends to bring your mind back to zero. It stabilizes you, calms you. My husband has anxiety, PTSD, and we find it really helps.
What do you mean by guided meditation? Do they give you step by step? How does that work?
So we listen to. We have CDs we listen to, and he talks you through it. So he's a master healer, master pranic healer. But we also do the iRest sessions down at the gym.
At lunchtime,
yes, they're amazing. Yeah.
iRest, like R-E-Y-E?
Integrated restoration. And it's a yoga nidra practice, and she guides you through a meditation, just relaxing you from head to toe.
It's amazing.
Smart that you're part of that. That's really smart coping strategies.
So how about nutrition and exercise? Do you have any ideas of maybe Sarah?
Ideas for nutrition and exercise?
Yes.
Well, you have the community kitchen thing going on base. I just kicked my coffee table with my toe and hurt my toe.
Oh.
And you stayed calm. So wow, control.
You know what comes to mind for the nutrition and exercise? I love the community kitchen, but also in the virtual classroom a couple months back, MFSUS held a 5-week Veggie Up program, it's called, and the challenge was to have 1 cup of vegetables at breakfast, lunch, and at supper for 5 weeks. And it was a group of 20 military spouses that took part, and it was phenomenal, great resource, and we learned so much. Each week we came back and shared, and we learned more about the importance of nutrition.
And PSP here has always some great tips and workshop, and we just finished a month for exercise, and there's a lot of stuff to do about it. Yes.
Yeah, the health promotion.
Health promotion, yes. The department is really wonderful. Some of you are doing journaling. We did use that more when we were a teenager. As an adult.
Check if you have a journaling now, and give us a red X if you're not. Okay, so Megan, great.
And Megan, if you can unmute, maybe could you tell us how you use it?
I just I journal regularly anyway, and I just kind of always have. But then when I got away from it a little bit, I ended up going and doing a coaching certification. Where like life coaching for other people and things like that, and I kind of reintroduced the importance of it. And then as soon as I finished my certification, we found out that we were getting posted and moving pregnant and things like that. So it kind of reintroduced me at the perfect time. So,
how do you decide when to journal, Megan? Is it daily, hourly, monthly? How do you decide when it's
I would
time?
love to do it daily, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. But I try to at least do it weekly.
Oh, weekly, okay.
Yeah, I try to at least do it weekly, so I make sure that it's the same as other things that I do just for myself, like the local book club and things like that. Just an evening where I can kind of lock myself away from my husband and children after my kids are in bed, and just and focus on me for at least an hour.
And that is a huge coping strategy, isn't it, Nancy? To do things for yourself, to focus on me. We don't do that nearly enough.
No, and I think we, as women, we're worse than anybody else to do it. We think of everybody else before us. So additionally to that, we have environmental factors and development levels play a part to how we cope. So for example, a crisis can be more challenging for military family than non-military family because they are away from their extended family. We had a good example in this scenario. So many military families are also young and have less experience dealing with stressful events. A more comprehensive list of coping strategies can be found in your Family Network volunteer book at page 31, and you can make copies to the list and provide them to the family as a resource too. So thank you for sharing. Now, if the MFRC use an 8-step crisis support model to ensure that staff and volunteers provide the same high-level crisis to family in need. Having guidelines also helps staff and volunteers gain confidence in executing their roles. The 8 steps to use when providing assistance to family in crisis are, so if I start with Angela, can you read the first one?
Handle initial contact.
And Sarah?
Establish rapport.
Megan?
Deal with emotions.
And we can start that with Angela.
Assess the situation.
Yeah, Sarah.
Provide resources.
And Megan.
Support action plan.
Report the situation.
Follow up.
And follow up. Thank you. So as we go over each step, consider your crisis scenario and take notes on how you could better respond to the situation. So the first step is handling the initial contact. So if we can move to the other one. A family member may approach you about their situation during an event through social media or by email. If you're contacted during an event, it's important to remain calm and show empathy without getting caught up in the person's emotion. If the situation is an emergency, encourage them to hang up and contact emergency personnel immediately. If it's not an emergency, try to provide 1 or 2 resources that may help the family. When approached during an event, some situation may be too complex for you to determine resource at the moment. You're in the moment. You are not always thinking and have all the answers. You may have to ask the family member if it's possible to schedule a time after the event to speak about what had happened so you can help. It's important that you reconnect at the date and time that you both agreed to. Neglecting to follow up may make some family members feel as if you do not care. We will talk more about the follow-up during the step 8 of the crisis support model. If a family member contacts you through social media, and I know for now it's more and more than ever, you can send them a private message with a helpful resource or request a time to speak with them about their situation over the telephone. You can use the same approach for email communication. If the family member provides you enough information about their situation, you can simply provide them with appropriate resources by replying promptly to their email. Whether a family member chooses to contact you during an event, through social media or by email, following steps 2 through 8 will help you assist them. I know that you're not I would say if you go back, you're not new to the family rep. Which one of those 3 you think that you get people asking, you know, what kind of the 3 of these reality are the most relevant for the people to come and ask you help?
So use your pointer in the top left-hand side and click on the one that you think is the most used with reference to initial contact. Is it face-to-face, social media, or email?
For you, as your experience.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. So, Sarah, for you, you see social media taking a lot of space? Yes?
For ESU, it tends to be the social media that I get most of the responses.
What's ESU again?
My husband's unit.
Oh,
I'm a family rep.
And Megan and Angela, it's more one-on-one, face-to-face. You have many activities where you can meet the people.
That's right.
Mine's not so much activities as attending enrollments and meeting families of newly enrolled members. So I pretty much, that's my face-to-face.
Good.
Have you seen the newly enrolled? Have you seen the step-by-step what to expect during the recruit training recordings?
The videos?
There's a recording that one of our students did on that.
I don't think I've seen it. No.
Oh, I'll add that to share with the Met Spouse program information.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you for that. So the next step is to establish rapport. Establishing rapport helps build trusting relationships. So if we can move to the next slide. Yeah. So using your text tool again, just beside the pointer tool at the top left-hand side of the screen, write in a word or 2 what you can do to establish a rapport and build trust. So remember to click away when you're done. So how do you build a rapport and build trust with people, maybe with 1 or 2 words? Yeah, that's really good, Margaret.
Yeah.
That to me is the most important, because if you break confidence once, they not only that person but other people won't come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and good. Eye contact, listen attentively.
Don't betray your confidence was exactly what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all on the same lines with don't betray confidence.
Yeah.
And I think to have it written down 2 and 3 and 6 times on this page, I think that speaks volumes. So keep writing it because it's so important.
I'm not sure if I should write it if everybody else has.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so because you're establishing a trust here, you might have to say it, many times, that what you're giving as information is confidential, and that I'll only share with people that will be able to help. Absolutely, but you have to share that information too. So building rapport begins with first contact. People in crisis need to know that the person they have turned to care about their situation wants to listen and as a means to help. Here are two things you can do to create a trusting environment with others. So if we can click on to get the information. So first you show empathy. Absolutely. So empathy is an ability to recognize another's feeling. It shows that you genuinely care about what the person is facing and that you want to be a resource for them. And the second one is actively listening to the person. It refers to the active listening self-assessment introduced in Module 2 of this training, and remind yourself about how you would like to improve your communication skills. Additionally, review the empathic listening tip on page 32 of your handbooks. So it's really the first thing that you're doing with the person is show empathy and actively listening and telling them that, yes, it's confidential. And all the rest of what we said is really, really important. Any question on that?
No.
I have a question or comment.
Yes.
So two, actually. It's wonderful how listening attentively came in perfectly with the slides. But the other thing that I wanted to say with reference to establishing a rapport is sometimes we don't establish the rapport only during crisis. If we get to know the people and they get to know our services, they get to know how we are, before there's even a crisis at all, then they know they can contact you. So even the establishing of rapport begins at first contact way before the crisis, hopefully.
And family network is that. It's why you have your welcome and orientation. It's why you have your Facebook page. It's why you're doing all those activities to get that trust before, hopefully, a crisis appear, and that you already had built this this trust with those people.
I love this program.
So the next step is assisting those in crisis and help them deal with their emotions. So what are some emotions a person in crisis might be feeling? So you can raise your hand to tell me some emotion that are a person in crisis may be feeling.
We have a poll for this one as well, Nancy.
I think it's just a bit further. One. Yes, it's after.
Right.
Yes. So any suggestion, Sarah?
Maybe anger, frustration?
Absolutely. Angela?
Anxiety and fear.
Absolutely. So as previously discussed, individuals may experience a range of emotion reaction and may need help expressing them. Simple clarifying statement or open-ended questions such as, it sounds like you are feeling, or are you feeling? Lets the person know that their emotions are important and deserve a recognition. One of the greatest concerns family network volunteers have when they respond to a person in crisis is the fear that they might say the wrong thing. Remember, military families have moved away from their relatives and friends back home, so when they call on you, they often have no one else to talk to, and they're relying on you to provide them with some level of comfort. I think it's all happened to us, maybe that we didn't know what to say or to do at one point. So we'll try to find some ways to trying to comfort others. Do you have any phrase that you use that work for you to comfort others? If you can raise your hand again.
So what would you say to somebody to comfort them?
Yes, Angela.
My first response is, how can I help?
Okay.
What are some other responses?
Yes, Angela?
There are people who care and want to help. People need to hear that sometimes.
Yes, they're not alone in there. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's often difficult to find comforting words. We can see that we have less answers. Sometimes we can get caught up in trying to say the right thing that we sound insincere and stage in our response. So we freeze and sometimes it happens that we say nothing. So we'll have a bit of an exercise next. To help consider thoughtful ways to talk with someone who may experience a crisis, we are going to do a quick activity called Words Matter. You will see a poll on the right side of your screen where the chat box is. You have 11 statements, and they are often used to comfort others. Please check which statements may be helpful to a person in crisis. So raise your hands when you're done, and you can submit it too. So you just put a check in the one that you think that are helpful, and when you're done, you just submit and raise your hands when you're done.
And you can answer more than one question, too.
Absolutely.
Any of the helpful statements. Somebody have their hand up. That's good.
Is everybody found the polling, or they need help to find the poll?
Okay. So we have 2 responses so far. We have 3. I think that's everybody.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to show the poll results.
Aha. Good. So we'll have some. We have some difference here. So we'll go through all of them to see. There's no right and wrong answer. It was better what worked the best. So remember that. So if we can switch to the next slide, we could. So words matter. It's time to go over each statement, and we'll see which one is working or not. So the first one, the same thing happened to me. So we had perfect, no answer. So why do you think it's a thumbs down?
The situation isn't always the same.
Right. And I think sometimes it could feel to that person as if you're minimizing their situation in some way.
Exactly.
And you go and you put the focus on you and not theirs.
Yeah.
Exactly. Next one. I'm sorry this happened. So that's a thumb up. Why?
So they know people care?
Yes, it's empathy and concern, absolutely. Next one. I cannot imagine how difficult this must be for you. I think everybody, yeah, 2 answer, yes, absolutely. So it's the thumb up too. Why, again? It shows empathy, eh?
Yes.
To me, it shows that you're listening to them and you've heard their story, and wow, that's a tough one.
Exactly.
Yes.
How about next one? I would like to be with you for a while if you would like. Again, thumbs up. Did we have everybody? No, good. So why do you think it's a thumbs up?
Because the person knows that you care, you're
willing to take the time.
Yes, exactly. You're putting them as a priority. Absolutely. Fifth one. I know how you feel. You thumbs down. We had no people thinking this one, eh? No, you don't know how the people feel about it.
And you know,
Absolutely.
when my sister was going through cancer, I said that to her, oh, I know how you feel, and she got so upset. She said, you have no frickin' idea. She didn't use frickin', but so yeah, it just angers for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so it can even shut the trust and make people not share it with you anymore. 6 is God's will. It's a thumb down. Why?
not everybody believes in a God.
Yes.
That's right.
Exactly. Yes.
And most people, even if they do, don't like it when you say that that particular time.
And you have no
It
power
takes
on
power
it.
away, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly. Next one, would you like me to help you with something? Thumbs up. I think, Angela, you mentioned something like that at the beginning, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, how can I help? Yeah.
Yeah, it's empowering and may reduce a person burden too.
Yeah.
What I like about that one too is it's not open-ended. You're actually giving something you can help with, because if you say, would you like me to help you,
That is
without giving them a
next one.
suggestion, they may be so confused they don't know where to get help with.
And that's the next one. If you tell me what I can do, it's the same. So tell me what I can do. When you're crisis, and I think somebody mentioned it at the beginning, that you cannot think clearly enough to define even your needs. Everything seems to be at the same level. So where you start, what you start with could be really difficult. And it's, oh my God, again, I need to do something to tell her what to do. I don't know if it happened to you, but it happened to me very often. And the answer, you almost said nothing, because really you cannot think of anything at that time, at that point. So the one after, it was a blessing that. What do you think is a no, a thumbs down?
It's kind of like the first one. They don't want to hear that at that moment, so it might upset them more than help the situation.
Exactly, and maybe a few times after, like a while after, they will be able to tell you what the blessing was, but not during the crisis, really.
Right.
Just be the next one. So just be thankful that. Again, yeah, no, I don't.
The last one.
And the last one. So, what you're feeling is very normal. Yes, I think that's a big one too. And Angela, I think you said it before, feeling that you're not alone in there. That what you're feeling is normal. That's a big help.
Yeah.
So after the word matter, the tone of your voice and your caring nature will make the biggest difference. When you're feeling insecure about how to respond to others, remember the quote from writer and theologian Carl Buchner. They may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
Yep.
That's so true, hey?
So thank you for the poll. That was fun, I think, to have the chance to work a bit on that and have different answers. So assess the situation. So helping individuals sort through their feelings and offering words of comfort allow them to process the situation and focus on the problem and potential situation. This is the next step in assisting those in crisis, assessing the situation. A proper assessment should help you identify 3 factors that determine a crisis: the presenting problem, available resources, and coping and problem-solving skills. When assessing the situation, let the family member know that you will be asking some personal questions and taking notes to answer accurately. This will prevent any confusion or misunderstanding on your part and prevent them from having to answer the same question more than once. And that's really difficult. They're going to something really difficult, so they have to say again and again and again, really difficult. Assure them that the conversation is confidential. We talked about it before, and will not be shared with individuals who are not in a position to help. So if you have, because you still have as a volunteer to share the situation with the staff, you need to tell them though that, you know, you're not alone in there, that there's a group and there's people in the backup, so please tell them that too. If during your assessment the family member report the intent to do personal harm or situation that indicate child abuse, you should inform them that you're bound to report these special circumstances to the MFRC and other appropriate authority, and we'll come back to that a bit later on. The first factor to determine is the presenting problem. So if we go to the next slide. So how do you identify and respond to a crisis? Do you have any idea how to identify and respond to a crisis? So we have some here, some ideas. Other ideas that come to you head when we talk about identifying and respond to a crisis? Angela, you were going to say something?
I don't know how you identify. I think you can tell by a person's demeanor whether they're in crisis usually.
Good, yeah. A person in crisis may contact you with a situation that requires immediate intervention. So I'm afraid of something is happening and like it's almost the emergency we talked at the beginning. So you have to be proactive and check for specific instruction with the MFRC how to handle an emergency, such as potential suicide or a person is in imminent danger. So that's the emergency. So you know this one is clear, it's happened. But there's also the time when the problem is not so obvious. Family member may go into a detailed explanation of past events before they tell you the reason for contacting you. Be patient and allow them to process the situation. This background is about how they cope with the past challenges too. And at some point, without interrupting, you may need to help the family member focus and identify the presenting problem and the immediate needs by asking, what was it made you contact me today, you know? So if you think about the scenario and see if you can identify the presenting problem. So raise your hand or, no, better, write down your answer. So if you can claim a row on the slide and tell me what do you think was the problem, the one that are the most needed attention at the beginning. They need the most attention.
So what was the problem that needed the most attention? In this scenario.
Don't forget to click away from the screen when you're done so we can see your answer.
It's interesting because there were so many different problems. Which one was the one that was the most immediate? You have to figure out.
Yes, and I think Angela did good. Like I look at her answer, she was kind of close to, again, what had to be dealt with right away.
Don't forget to click away so we can see what you've written.
Absolutely. See, so the children, yes, that was the right thing, and say, oh, so we need to take care of that. That cannot wait. And yes, contacting the spouse too, so he can be part of the support group after that. That you know, with everything else to deal. The financial will depend. If contacting the spouse, they might find other ways to help. But it's part of the problem. But you got it. The respite childcare and the contact with the family member were the two most maybe the crisis that required the most attention right away. So just as a question like that, do you know what type of crisis situation are the most common in the military with the military families? Raise your hands if you have any ideas of, in general, in crisis situation, what are the most common?
What are the most common in
crisis with the military families in general, the one that are coming the most often?
Right. I've lost my stuff at the side where I have my hand in that. How do I get that back?
Oh, you see the word participants?
Yes.
Okay, click on the little triangle to the left of that, and that'll bring it back.
Okay. Got it.
You see it now?
Yes. There we go. Okay. Sorry, what was your question again, Nancy?
So do you have any idea of what are the most common crises in the military families that you see the most? Yes, Melissa?
Megan.
Megan, I'm sorry.
I would think maybe requiring financial aid, some kind of financial crisis.
Ooh, that's a good
would
one.
be a popular one.
Angela?
Feeling of isolation.
Okay. So in the studies that they have, the most typical crises that Family Network volunteers are approached will include family death or illness, needing to contact the military member while they are away, example in deployment, respite childcare or nanny support services, and assistance with errand due to inability to drive. So that's what, not us because we're new, but with the other program that they, when they compile all the kind of help that was needed, that was the one that were the most asked to the Family Network.
Do we have a lot of spouses that don't drive?
Still happen.
I've actually met quite a few also, especially spouses that come from larger cities. I'm from a small town, so I wrote my driver's test on my 16th birthday at 10 a.m., but a lot of friends from Montreal and Ottawa and Toronto that don't have their license because they never needed it.
And I saw statistics saying that you're right, depending on the size of the town, and the youngest don't drive. There's a drop in taking the driving lesson with the young population.
With reference to financial aid, you're going to think I'm a broken record. We have a SISTA 4-part recordings workshops with reference to credit rating and how to budget and that kind of thing. Would you like me to include that in the after-session email as well?
Absolutely.
Okie dokie.
So if we go to the next one.
Oops.
So we got that, yeah. Once you identify the presenting problem, you should determine the family's available resources. You will want to ensure they have resources to offset the severity of their problem. If possible, you should also verify if they have access to essential needs such as shelter, food, water, clothing, transportation, financial means, again, medical care, and support system. So we will talk more about the resources in a few moments, but at this stage, continue to ask assessment questions and listen attentively and make note of available resources. So really, before you're giving too much maybe of solution, you may look at what they have themselves as resources. And so next, you want to assess the family member coping and problem solving. So coping skills are attitudes and behaviors that help one offset the disadvantage in their life until the situation is stabilized. To assess coping skills, you might ask whether they have ever felt this way before. If so, ask how they got through those feelings. Some individuals will have positive coping skills, such as engaging in a support network, exercising, or journaling. We talked about it earlier, while others may have negative coping reactions, such as outbursts, isolation, or substance use. So So praising positive behaviors will help build rapport. So do not hesitate to commend them for their choices. However, offering healthy alternatives for counterproductive behaviors must be done carefully. You do not want them to think that you're judging them. In these cases, it's best to make recommendations when rapport and trust is built. So true, eh? You think that people have the right answer and they say how to solve your problems. Again, remember that you're not there to solve their problems, but that help them to find the answer. That's the most difficult part of it, almost. Any comment on that? No. Okay, so if I could see people, I could see the nudges, I think, eh?
It is
So
hard because you do want to fix things for people.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And very often people who are volunteer for those kind of programs are people who want to help, and that is the most difficult to learn, not to give answer, but to help them do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, so problem-solving skills. Exactly, but you can help them to have the solving skills. It includes the ability to define the problem, identify the cause of the problem, and brainstorm potential solutions to mitigate the problem. It also includes setting up systems to minimize reoccurrence. So one strategy to identify problem-solving skills is similar to assessing coping skills. Ask the family member if they have been in a similar situation. If so, ask what they did in the past to help resolve the problem. You can also ask them what would make this situation better and what they would like to see happen next. These questions will help the person focus less on the problem and more on the solution. We did a bit that at when we did the break at the first ice-breaking activity. It was 20 years ago, but it's a bit the same. You know, what did you tell yourself when you had a crisis before, and it helped you to work through it? Your job during the assessment stage is to ask appropriate questions. Listen with an empathetic ear and take good notes. Assessing the presenting problem, available resources, and coping and problem-solving skills will help you identify what resources the family needs. This is the next step in the crisis support system. Some family members will have the resources to help their family deal with the current situation. You should encourage them to maximize these resources. Other family will not have adequate resources. Your role in a crisis support is to provide options and help them make the best choice for the family. Again, I like the word options, because it might be what you think is the best for them, but they need to buy it. They need to think that is the best for them. So when making your referral, it's important that you do not make the decision for the family member, even if they are having difficulty identifying what is the best for them. Your job is to empower the family by informing them of available options, discussing the pros and cons of each option, supporting the decision, and encouraging them to take actions. So MFR program and MFRC programs and services are designed specifically for military families, as you know. As a family network volunteer, you have direct access to programs, information, and staff. This should be your first line of referral for your families in your network. When referring families to specific programs areas, you should help establish a connection between the family and MFRC staff by making a formal introduction. So how do you make sure that you know all about the services of the MFRC? What are your tools? Megan?
What is the question you're asking? What are the tools
that you use as a family volunteer network to make sure that you know about the services of the KMFRC?
Oh, just there's the literature, like the booklets and things like that. There's making sure that you're always aware of the monthly calendars.
Yeah,
things like that. You mean actual resources, like the?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay, and like following the Facebook page and checking your emails.
Good. Yes. So you have tools, and you have people to do. You know, people that you can call, and you can make sure that if you have questions, they can answer you. Staff member.
Mhm.
So which staff do you know that can answer your questions?
Well, we have Heather, and then there's also, I mean, in regards to childcare, there's Karen and the front desk staff and.
Good,
Wow.
good.
Nancy,
Yes.
does the volunteer network meet regularly? Because they could also give scenarios to one another. They could say, oh, I had this family that did X, Y, Z. How would you handle it?
Do they
And
have
what resources?
They have monthly meeting, I guess. I think.
Yeah,
If I
we
don't.
do.
Yes, exactly.
So can you share scenarios and ask for resource suggestions at that time with other volunteers?
Absolutely. This is one of the volunteers, the staff, they're resourced to be able to work together and learn. Absolutely. Good.
And this is on page 211 in the guide?
I don't have the page though. No,
Okay.
yeah. So, but if you cannot find the necessary help at the MFRC, you can make referral to in the community too. Do you have tools and resources that you can name in the community that you can use to do referral? I see one of them. Yes. The 211, is everybody know the 211?
Give me a green check if you ever heard or used of 211. Red X if you have not.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's what's supposed to be in your, when you're taking your, so I make note to Heather to talk about the 211, but it's a call, it's a line that you can call or go online, but best way is to call. And if you have any question about the community, could be how to get my where to get my driver's license, or where I can get food, or help with any kind of help in the community, you can call them. It's all in many languages, so it can be in French and English and other languages, and just call. So if you have time and you have a question, just try them. Call 211 and ask them the question, and they should give you the access to the resources in the community about that. So I hope that you will try it.
Yay! We learned something new today. That's great.
But you also have your guide to the military family, your welcome package, and some pamphlet too at the center that you can use. So you should become very familiar with the list so you can make appropriate referrals. Once the family member has identified the resource they need, provide them with current contact information, and that can be with names, address, phone number, email address, but they need to do their own call. Sorry, I have un chat dans la gorge. We say in French, I don't, it's a frog, I think, in English. We say.
Yes, French is the cat.
Any question or comment about the resources? No? We're almost done. So we are a bit late, so I'm sorry for that, but we're almost done. So before ending the conversation, help the family member create an action plan by reminding them of the step they committed to take. Have them write their plan down and include a specific date and times. For example, if they committed to scheduling an appointment with the MFRC deployment coordinator, ask them to identify when they will do that. This is also a good time to ensure that they feel better able to cope with the situation and recommend healthy coping alternatives. If necessary, reassure them that the crisis is temporary and their initial reaction to the problem is normal. So last but not least, schedule a follow-up date and time. The follow-up can be done by telephone or through face-to-face contact and should be mutually agreed to. Have them record the following update and time to their action plan. You should also record it on your calendar so you don't forget. And report the situation. So this is really important. I know that it doesn't happen very often, but if it's happened, you need to know that. Make sure you are truly familiar with the mandatory reporting requirement. For example, Canadian law has mandatory reporting requirement for cases of suspected child abuse or neglect. MFRC personnel, including volunteers, are required to report all instances of suspected abuse to the Ministry of Children and Family Development. In case of domestic violence, the Canadian Forces has zero tolerance policy. So military units will report all instances of suspect abuse to the family crisis team, and when a military or family member indicates they are at danger to themselves or others, you should contact 911 if necessary, and absolutely the MFRC supervisor, so either immediately, so they some emergency assistance if they need to. I talked to Heather. She said that there's none other protocol in those cases, but really that is so important to remember. And the last step of the crisis support model is to follow up. Following up is an important part of the crisis management. Remember, you made a commitment to reconnect with the family, and they will expecting to hear from you on the mutually agreed to date and time. Honoring your word is a reflection of your character and the integrity of the MFRC and the Family Network program. So we have covered a lot of information. So to summarize the 8 steps of crisis support, can somebody want to read all of them? Raise your hand. Last homework. Angela.
Okay. Handle the initial contact, establish a rapport, deal with emotions, assess the situation, provide resources, support action plan, report the situation, and follow up.
Good. Thank you very much. So before we conclude today's training, I want to talk about something very important. So if you can pass to the next slide. Being a family network volunteer does not make you immune to crisis. I think some of you share some of that reality. As a member of the military community, you also may be affected by military crises and local disasters. There also will be time when you are facing a personal crisis. When this happens, you may feel as if you have to put your needs aside to tend to the needs of your network. You may also be tempted to lean on the people in your network for support. As a family network volunteer, it's important to know that your peer supports are other MFRC staff and volunteers. And remember, you are a leader. So reaching down into your family network for support compromises the fidelity of the family network program. Instead, please rely on the MFRC staff and the volunteer to get mentoring and coaching when you need help. That means, I think, and Heather is really good at that, you can always call her, and you have ways of reaching to other volunteers and use it. It's really difficult, and those lines are really thin because you get some of your friends maybe in your network, so sometimes it's really difficult to make the difference and to make sure for yourself you get the right help. Is there any question about what you can do to support you when you're in a crisis?
No.
Yeah, good.
And remember that your needs are important, and that's the one thing as women that I find is the hardest for me to accept, but I really work on that for sure.
Absolutely.
Self-care.
Yeah, and use those tools again, and sometimes it's funny because when we help others, oh, you should take care of yourself, and this support, and we look at ourselves and say, yeah, I should do that for myself too. So yes. So that's conclude our presentation. This module was designed to help identify potential crises. It introduced the concept of crisis reaction and discussed the way the MFRC and the Family Network program may be able to help families in need. So today we discussed about type of crisis military and family members may encounter, common crisis reactions, the eight steps for responding to individual in crisis, and the existing network support system for the Family Network volunteers. Can I ask you, what was your ha-ha moment? What did you learn?
If you want to just bring your pointer to claim a spot on the whiteboard, and if you use your text tool to write in your aha moments from today's virtual session.
So it could be from the virtual itself, the virtual presentation, or about the workshop too.
Ah. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Very often at work they're saying that I should be paid by the 211 because this is my tool I use everywhere. So I'll go back to Heather and talk to her about it. So thank you. So we're getting to at the end. So in the chat room, you should see at the right bottom side of your screen a link to fill up a survey. So before you're leaving, we have a small survey to help us to get better. Before we go there, do you have any final thought about the presentation today? And for those of you who did have the training before, did it help you to refresh everything?
That was great. I really like the online resource too. It makes it a little bit more doable.
Oh, good.
Yeah, very interactive, isn't it? A lot more interactive than people would think.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's a great program. I'm impressed. Yeah.
Thank you.
So again, Margaret, you wanted to say something or something?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say click on the link in the chat, and then when you come back, we'll head out. And let me know if there's a problem with it. It should work for you. Angela, do you have access to it?
Yep.
Great. Just give us a green check when you're back. And to get back, you just click on the blue and green ball at the bottom of your screen.
I'm just getting a blank page for some reason.
Okay, maybe try clicking on it again, and if not, I'll put it in the after session email. Gotta love technology. It's good when it works.
Yeah, it's not letting me in for some reason.
Okay, well, we'll try sending it in the after session email.
Okay.
If you just want to give us a green check that you're back. And Angela, you never left. What a joy it is for me to have the opportunity to meet you, Sarah, Megan, and Angela, and to know that this program is in existence. Wow, what a great program. I think every MFRC needs to have this volunteer network.
Yeah, we're trying to push it that way because it makes such a difference being with the contact with the families.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, you're done?
Almost.
Okay.
And then to
I want to thank Margaret too, because without her this will not happen. She was amazing helping us going through all this work, and she's an amazing person to work with. So thank you, Margaret.
oh, thank you, Nancy. That makes me feel very, very happy. And Sarah's back. So if there's any other questions that you'd like to add or comments, otherwise to exit the screen, you just click on the red X on the top right-hand side of your screen. And thank you again for coming out.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, ladies.
Great. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Nancy, do you want to stay on for a few moments?
Yes, I'm staying.
Great. I'm going to stop the recording.